I got it! Keiji Inafune's latest masterpiece, Mighty No. 9. Raising over $4 million in Kickstarter, Mighty No. 9 seemed like the spiritual successor that Mega Man fans deserved. Alas, Concept, the company Inafune funded after his departure from Capcom, was mired in chaos prior to Mighty No. 9's release. Delays, followed by the banning of Kickstarter supporters who openly supported Gamergate, as well as pushing more crowdfunded games like the Mega Man Legends' spiritual successor Red Ash, led many fans to lose faith in the company and the promising game. But finally, Mighty No. 9 has been released, and we get to sink our teeth into the new action platformer to rival the beloved Mega Man series. Wow, with an average score of 5 out of 10, it doesn't look good. The only thing worse than a horrible game is a game mired in mediocrity. At least a hated game leaves you with an impression. Mediocre games are just forgettable. But to hell with those naysayers, let's take a look at this game of promising potential. The game plays a mix of the classic Mega Man and a bit of Mega Man X. You control Mighty No. 9, a robot called Beck. He has the standard controls of moving, jumping, and shooting a familiar-looking egg-shooting arm cannon. He also has a dash feature that plays heavily into the combat mechanics of the game. There is no Mega Man X wall jump, but you do get to grab onto ledges, so that's something. Look out for that out-of-control robot, Beck. Rather than just shooting enemies, you have to weaken them first with your arm cannon. Then you dash into them to absorb them. This gives Beck various boosts to his abilities, such as a penetrating shot and an increase to defense. Absorbing enemies in this way also refills special weapon energy. Unfortunately, there is no reliable way to refill your health outside of the occasional power-up, but enemies don't drop them. The bosses for the most part are pretty cool from a superficial point of view. Each has a unique personality and motive, and many of the English voice actors are familiar. I could listen to Steve Blum taunt me all day as Countershade.
Run along now, little doggy. Run and fetch for your human masters.
Alas, behind these colorful characters are frustrating to downright easy boss fights. Some have elaborate, hard-to-dodge, high-damaging attacks, or a very quick cue to alert you of the coming devastating attack. Others just sit there and fire until they are defeated. I may be being a little unfair. Some fights were quite creative, and they were enjoyable to figure out. Just look at Avi. Not only was his level one of my favorites, he was a very enjoyable fight, and with his entertaining personality, he swiftly became one of my favorite characters from the game. The big problem with the boss fights is the need to absorb the boss's energy every quarter or fifth of their health. Once you blast a chunk of their health away, they enter a weakened state, where you can dash into them to permanently cement the damage you just did. Otherwise, they'll start to regain their health while remaining invulnerable to all of your attacks, save for your dash. This breaks the flow of the boss fights in such a way that it makes it feel choppy and repetitive. With bosses down, let's look at the level design, or the lack thereof. In Mega Man, level design was a craft. It rarely ever threw the player through a loop, and the design would teach you as you played. Mighty No. 9 just seems to throw shit at you in increasing intervals. There are some areas that glean out some fantastic moments, and if you have defeated a specific boss, you get a pretty entertaining scene in the background, but the majority of the game is pretty forgettable. One level had the make of an amazingly creative and interesting design, but it ultimately failed to me by not having checkpoints. In Countershade's level, rather than having a linear level with a start and finish, the level was a loop, and it allowed Beck to progress in either direction, all the while battling enemies and evading the boss's sniper fire while searching for the shooter himself. After you find him a number of times, you progress to a new area, but if you die any time before that, you have to restart the entire level. I was talking to a 7-year-old child the other day, and he told me, this is a child talking now, mini-bosses are stupid. Their only purpose is to drain your health. I couldn't agree more.
If a mini-boss was optional and hid some power-up or secret route, that would be fine. But for the most part, they are just ways to suck some life out of you and the gameplay. But do you know what's worse? Stopping your progression not with a mini-boss, no, but with a room where you must fight several waves of standard enemies in order to progress. Do you know what can top that?
Having one of these areas in every goddamn level in the game!
Okay. Avi's level is actually a mini-boss, which solidifies this stage as my favorite in the game, but that's not saying much. As for the game's story, it's a cut above your regular Mega Man game, but I've always assumed that Mega Man was self-aware, and it was just a means to an end so we could play the game. On the surface, Mighty No. 9 is simple. Robots going crazy and acting up, everyone is blaming the mad scientist, Professor Blackwell, who has a striking resemblance to Dr. Wily, and you play a unique robot designed by Dr. White.
Dr. White? We're not even trying to hide the Mega Man connections, are we, Mr. Inafune?
Beck has the ability to assimilate robots and turn them to his cause, so he sets out to save all the other mighty robots. While Beck is geared for combat, he has an aversion to violence, a trait that his sister robot, Call, brings up and wonders why she has no such aversion to harming others. The game shallowly attempts to engage some interesting philosophies here, but ultimately falls flat. It seems the game's overtone is trying to be serious, but its roster of wacky characters and cartoony style rip you out of the moment time and time again.
Great Caesar's ghost! They found us!
Speaking of cartoony graphics, the animation is schlock. And I don't mean this in the, oh, it's not naturalistic graphics, so they suck. I mean the imagery is garbage, the character design is fine, the level concepts look cool, but everything flops on its face in the game. The glow effects dilute everything into a muddy smear of garish colors, and the backgrounds tend to have more interesting things going on than in the foreground. Nothing is more frustrating than trying to focus on some platforming and being distracted by Egoraptor's mug in the background. Oh, you son of a bitch! It's not just the diluted and overwhelming visuals that annoy me about this game's appearance. It's the complete lack of originality. The game doesn't stand out. It could have gone with sharp, retro look like Shovel Knight, a 3D cel-shaded blend with a comic book style like Beautiful Joe, or even the paper doll cutout style of Salt and Sanctuary. But it's settled with bland, run-of-the-mill 3D models that look like garbage in contrast to the concept art. As for the tunes, the music isn't half bad, but the game sets the music volume incredibly low in contrast to sound effects and the voices. On top of that, there are so much dialogue and scene interruptions in every level that the music falls into forgettable obscurity. This game is torn. Half the game wants to be a new Mega Man, the other half is trying to be its own original thing, but as the two aspects battle for supremacy, the game falls into a heap of subadequacy. Inafune has stated when he left Capcom to make Concept, "I'm leaving Capcom with the intention of starting my life over." But all he's done by opening this portal to the past is repeat himself by making a redesigned Mega Man game, and is currently working on a Mega Man Legends clone. He's repeating himself.
Oh my god. This portal that he's created, it's distorting time. Everything's folding in on itself. He created Mighty No. 9 with the heart and soul of the original Mega Man games, but it also possesses all of the faults of the latter games in the series. Even worse, Red Ash failed to kickstart, which draws more parallels to the Mega Man Legends series, which got cancelled. Sins of the Father, we're doomed to repeat our mistake! I got it. Keiji Inafune's latest masterpiece, Mighty No. 9.
Jiminy! Attaboy, Beck! Come on, Will! Show a bit of enthusiasm!
Perhaps you should show a bit of restraint, Dr. Sanda. This is only the beginning.
I got it. Keiji Inafune's latest masterpiece, Mighty Number 9. Do you know when Mighty Number 9 2 is coming out?
Shut up.